I come from a long line of teachers, educators, but more than that, I think I come from a long line of storytellers. And my mother's from Louisiana, my dad's from Texas, and we would go back for reunions and such in Louisiana. And I spent hours as a young boy. It was me and my sister, and then no other kids, just me and my sister and old people. For years and years, I thought that mildew was just old people smell, but it was really just Louisiana and, old musty houses in Louisiana. And so the only thing that I had to really play with was going out in the woods and, you know, looking for deer and whatnot, or an old funny snow globe. And so I would sit a lot and just listen to my old aunts talk and tell stories and help them shell peas on the front porch by, sitting on the floor sitting on the ground while they sat on the swing and listen to their stories. And I think I probably picked up a love for storytelling then. And then and my aunt was a librarian. My dad was a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. But my librarian aunt would come every summer to Texas, and she'd bring a big box of discarded books from the library. And, the books with crayon marks or whatever. And we lived on a little ranch. My dad was a teacher, so in Texas, so we were, as you can imagine from your family, we were very poor. That was the only income we had, was my dad's teaching, and then we raised some okra for Safeway. But so every summer, I just so looked forward to my aunt coming. And in 1970, she brought me a bunch of books, but she also brought me a brand new book by a guy signed, autographed by the author, and his name is Wilson Rawls. Wilson Rawls wrote a book in the late 60s called Where the Red Fern Grows. So I have a signed copy of Where the Red Fern Grows. And I was a pretty early reader. I was 8 years old, and I read it, cried my eyes out. It was just, I tell my grandkids, man, if there's a picture of a dog on the front of a book, you're going to cry. That's just the way dog books go. So I read it, and I remember thinking, man, I want to write stories like this. And I took it to third grade, and my teacher read it, and I had a big crush on her, and she cried her eyes out, and it just sort of cemented in my mind that I want to write stories. So I spent the next many, many years writing stories about boys and their dogs, and excuse me, the place where we lived is, I don't know if you know who Fred Gibson was, but Fred Gibson wrote stories in the area of Texas where I spent my middle years, fourth, fifth, sixth grade. And he wrote Old Yeller, Savage Sam, and those books that were made into Disney movies. So that's the area I kind of roamed around in and wrote stories about. And so I ended up spending the next 30 years writing and getting rejected and writing and getting rejected. And finally got published when I was in